All right, the Newport This Week video podcast series rolls on. I'm Bill Bartholomew. Great to have you along with us here each and every week as we talk about some of the most interesting people and stories happening on Aquidneck Island and beyond. And today we're talking about something that really has become a household name when you think about Newport, Rhode Island, and you think about this particularly, not even the entertainment world, but it's more than that. It's the ecosystem of creatives that, although challenged by housing and other factors, is part of Newport's identity. And along with that, of course, is comedy and the Rouge Island Comedy Festival now entering its 10th year. Doug Key joins us this morning here on the podcast. Thanks for your time, sir.
Hey, thanks for being here. I'm glad that you referred to me as an interesting person because I think otherwise. But I'm glad to be here. And yeah, Rogue Island Comedy Festival, 10 years, and it's going to be a good year. We're excited to bring a whole new lineup of comics to this to Newport and Middletown, Portsmouth, the whole island really. We're even expanding into Providence a little bit, but the core of the festival still remains on the islands.
It's really, again, it's one of those core, using that word back to back, but it's one of those core events that has defined Newport's really creative sector. When did this idea begin for you? What was sort of the initiation of let's do a comedy festival and have it be based out of Newport, Rhode Island?
Well, I'd been doing stand up for I started stand up like 2009, and then I started running my own shows in like 2012. And I decided to do a monthly show at the Firehouse Theater where the bit players do their thing, but they're improv, and there was no stand up in Newport. So my stand up show was selling out every month, and it kind of gave me the idea like, all right, if this is selling out once a month, why don't I do multiple shows in one weekend? Not necessarily a comedy club, but why not I do like an annual event, like a festival? Because I had done some comedy festivals before, some better than others. So I kind of took what I learned on the road from these festivals. And, Newport is already an historic festival city. Like, we have the Folk Fest, the Jazz Fest, the Oyster Fest, the Everything Fest. So, but there was no comedy festival. So I figured I would kind of round out that palette of arts and include a comedy festival. And it was very well received the first year. We didn't anticipate it being an annual event, and here we are 10 years later, and we're going strong twice a year now, Memorial Day weekend and Columbus Day weekend every year.
Right. That's a key factor as well, is that this thing pops up twice a year and it's sort of a symbol of when you get to the May edition, it's like, great, this
Yeah,
season's here. When you get to October, it's kind of like, all right, we've got this and the Broadway Street Fair. It's time to potentially not enjoy
exactly.
your environment as much anymore, but that's just the way it goes in New England. When did you get into stand-up comedy? How did you know that this was something that you wanted to pursue?
I mean, I feel like everybody has some degree of like, oh, that's a cool joke. I wish I could do that, or I could never do that. And I think a lot of comics when they start, they're a little hesitant because they have stage fright, or maybe there's no exposure to stand up in their city or wherever. So Newport didn't have a comedy scene, so I saw an ad in a class in the paper for like a comedy class, and I took the class. And it doesn't teach you how to be funny, but it just teaches you like etiquette things. But it also introduces you to other comedians locally in the state. And that's where networking starts. That's where, you meet people who run shows or contests. And it kind of just snowballs from there. And yeah, it's a small scene here, but it's very tight knit. It's, the Comedy Connection in Providence is a great club. That's where I kind of started. And yeah, it's one of those things where you start it, and maybe you don't have the best set your first time on stage, but it motivates you to get better. And it's a never ending learning process of getting funnier and writing new jokes and staying relevant and relatable.
It's a medium that is so challenging because as someone who is on the singer-songwriter side and on, I guess, what you call the spoken word side, with the songwriter work, there's usually, not always, but there's usually a guitar or there's something there that's sort of this invincible force field that you can hide behind. On the audio side, the spoken word audio side, for me, it's like whether it's podcast or radio or TV or whatever, there's no physical audience there to react to you. As a stand-up
Yeah.
comic, you are absolutely at the precipice of being the most vulnerable, even more so than like a one-man show because of just the nature, the
Yeah.
timing, the fluidity of stand-up comedy, and the audience. Who knows if that particular audience is ready for what you have to bring? what's
Yeah.
the most challenging part of the job?
I mean, you said it yourself. Like comedy is you require constant validation throughout the entirety of your set. Where music, you're playing a song, people are having background conversations, chatting, and they clap at the end of the song to because that they're cued to clap because the song ends. I mean, obviously it's a good song, whatever, but they're still cued. And with comedy, you need laughs throughout the whole set, or else what do you do? Unless it's a one man show, like you said, where it's more storytelling, long form. You're not really required to laugh at every minute. Uh, but that's really the challenge is you have to get a group of people, a group of strangers, all who have different senses of humor to collectively laugh at the exact same time with your own dumb thoughts. It's very hard to do, but it's so satisfying, and it's like a drug. That's why comics are like addicted to getting on stage because it's a great feeling. Everybody wants to make people laugh, and but yeah, that's the hardest part is getting people to laugh.
Yeah, it would make sense. That certainly hits the nail on the head right there. 13 shows all over Rhode Island, a stacked lineup for sure. Venues including the Jane Pickens Theater, the Ragged Island Brewing, Portsmouth
Mm,
Top Pelham, Rejects down in
yep.
Middletown, the Quencher, which is the new restaurant and bar that was at the old Celtica, which is being
Yeah.
run by the folks who run Diego's. I mean, there's a whole plethora of venues. And, I guess something intangible about any sort of performance space or any sort of community is the idea of a scene, the idea of not
Mm,
only nurturing that sort of competition amongst the people in the scene, but also growing that scene on a national or global basis and having a place be known for a particular medium or a particular element of a medium. Like Brooklyn was indie music central in the 2000s. Right now, I think
yeah.
like Austin and what Joe Rogan has kind of built down there. Whether you love him, hate him, there's no
Yep.
doubt about it that they have transformed that city into a comedy hub through his podcast, through his performances, through the amount of people he's gotten to move there, and now through his venues. Do you think Newport has the potential to become like Austin in the sense of being a hub where people beyond just talking about the Comedy Store or talking about New York or talking about Boston, they think of Newport, Rhode Island as a place for comedy, or are we
Mm.
already there?
I think it does. I don't think it could be the large caliber of Austin, like a year round comedy hub. But I do think Newport has the potential to be a comedy. It has merit to perform in Newport. With the long history, like I said, of folk fest to jazz fest. My goal is to turn Rogue Island into a festival that comics are coming around the world for. And you mentioned Rogan. There's one of my favorite comics, Sam Talent. He did the festival a couple years ago. He was a recent guest on Joe Rogan, and when I reached out to him to ask him to do the festival, he responded. He was like, "Hell yeah!" He's like that festival has been on my bucket list to do. So, and I had no idea. So, the comics are over the last 10 years have started to hear about it. It's spread word of mouth. I'm a comic, so I want to make it a very comic friendly festival, and I think that's where it gets a lot of respect amongst the comedy scene. And like you said, my goal is I want it to not only attract comics from all over, but I do want to cultivate a Rhode Island comedy scene that's can be talked about and is in the conversation. It's a small state, so it's just a numbers game. There's not as many comedians here, but we got comics that come down from Boston, up from Connecticut. So I would like to make it a little bit of a mini New England hub, if you will. So um, yeah, I that's the plan is to keep it growing.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. What sort of support or reaction have you gotten from city officials? Has the mayor does he attend these events? Have you ever talked to Mayor Zai or anybody else that's on the council? Is this something
I
from an
I didn't.
economic development standpoint they might be interested in?
I should explore a little bit more of that. Yeah, Mayor's he did come last year to a couple of shows, and I was looking at him the whole time to make sure he was enjoying himself, and he was. So so yeah, I'm glad that he was there, and we have the support of city officials and stuff. But yeah, I would like to get a little bit more involved and do stuff year round with the city and be involved more in the community. We have great local sponsor Newport businesses that sponsor like Nick Brownell of Total Mortgage and Island Adventures. He sponsors our fest every year. He's the premier sponsor. He really helps. Help, financially. He gives us money to help pay for advertising and things like that. But also, like, Caleb and Broad, Empire Coffee, Wally's Wieners, Fairwind Fasteners, all these local sponsors. I can go. We have like 10 or 11. So, but yeah, we have locals that come out and visit every year. We have people that drive in from like New York that come to the festival when they could just easily go to New York City. They come up to Newport to see a New York style show in the beautiful town of Newport. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, really.
Yeah, that's the ultimate economic driver right there. If you're going to get into that conversation, it's organic, not forced. People who say, I want this experience. I could get this experience somewhere else, be it New York or be it, any town in America. But then they say, I want to come to Newport for all of the other things that make this sort of a harmonious experience. That's what's making this event so special. It's what made it so special. That's what's allowing it to continue and to grow in both the spring and autumn iterations. You can read more about this in Newport This Week and at newportthisweek.com. Doug, thanks for your time, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Bill. I appreciate it, and I hope to see you at the fest. I'll give you a free ticket with a friend if you want to come.
That'd be great. I'll be there.
All right, man.